If you're trying to figure out when Social Security and disability benefits will be paid for December 2023, this video is for you. I'm going to give you the exact dates when those payments are going to hit your bank account. And you want to stay till the end of this video because I have a very important update. A recent 60-minute story came out, and over 1 million Social Security and disability beneficiaries are at risk of losing their benefits due to overpayments. I'm going to walk you through that 60-minute story and end with an amazing story of somebody that got a bill for $84,000 and how they dealt with it with the Social Security Administration. So let's jump right into it. So here's what I want to cover today. So Social Security and disability payments are coming very soon, and there's going to be 2 payments for SSI beneficiaries this month because your January payment is going to be made in December. President Biden wants to change Social Security. He has a 4-part plan that is going to affect everybody on Social Security and future beneficiaries, so you want to stay for that. And then there's going to be 5 major changes to Social Security in January. I want to bring you all the update on that. And then, as I mentioned, you want to stay to the end of this video because this 60-minute story is as crazy as it gets. 1 million people are going to receive letters from the Social Security Administration because they owe overpayments. I want to walk you through what happens, what you need to do if you receive one of these letters, and then how somebody got a bill for $84,000 in overpayments and how they dealt with it. So that is according to Newsweek. So let's delve right into it. So the first thing I want to bring to you is your payment dates. As you know, Social Security benefits are paid based on your birth date and a specific Wednesday. So if your birthday is between December 1st and the 10th, your payment is going to be deposited on the second Wednesday of the month. And this is Social Security and SSDI. If your birthday is between December 11th and the 20th, your SSDI and Social Security benefits will be deposited on the third Wednesday of the month. And if your birthday is between the 21st and the 31st of December, your Social Security or SSDI benefits are going to be deposited on the fourth Wednesday of the month. So this is what the dates looks like. But before I get into that, if you're on SSI, as I mentioned, there's going to be 2 payments this month. But your payments are typically made on the first of the month. Unless you live outside the U.S., you receive both Social Security and SSI. Your state pays your Medicare premium, and you file for Social Security before 1997. So what are the actual dates for payments? Well, if you're on Social Security or SSDI, here's what your payment looks like. The first payment is on December 13th, so that has passed. That was about 2 days ago, and those are for people whose birthdays are between the 1st and the 10th of the month. If your birthday is between the 11th and the 20th, your payment is going to come on December 20th, which is 5 days away. And then if your payment is made on the 27th, it means that your birthday is between the 21st and the 31st of the month. So those are your Social Security and SSDI benefit payment dates for the month. If you're on SSI, Supplemental Security Income Benefits, then you would have been paid on December 1st. Friday, December 1st was the first payment that went out. And on the same Friday, December 1st, another batch of payment went out, which should have gone out on the 3rd. But because the 3rd was a Sunday, you would have received your payment on the 1st. This is for those who live outside the United States. They receive both Social Security and SSI. Your state pays your Medicare premiums, and you file for Social Security benefits before 1997. You should have received your payment on December the 1st. And then the second payment for SSI is going to come on Friday, December 29th, because the January payment, which would have been paid on January 1st, that is a holiday. And as you may be aware, SSI payments are not made on holidays or weekends. So if your payment dates falls on a weekend or a holiday, it will be paid the business day before, which happens to be Friday, December the 29th. So you're going to get 2 SSI payments this month. It's not a double payment in terms of double money. Your January payment is just being paid in December. So you're not going to get any payment in January. So you should budget accordingly. Now, if you do not receive your payment, then you need to pay attention here because it may be due to the overpayment issue that I'm going to talk about at the end of the video. A lot of you have been emailing us and saying you didn't receive your payment for the month. So pay attention to the overpayment stories and learn the 3 things that you can do to fight overpayment. But if you did not get your payment this month, here's what you can do. You have to wait 3 business days. That is according to the Social Security Administration, because there may be a technology issue, there may be an issue with your bank. And so after those 3 business days, if nothing happens, if your payment does not hit your account, then you should call the Social Security Administration at 1-800-772-1213. Or you can go online. If you have already set up your My Social Security account, then you can go online and see what's happening. Or you can go to a Social Security office in your local area. They can explain to you what happened, because it may be due to an overpayment. Means that you were paid more Social Security benefits than you deserve, so they're taking your money away to pay for that overpayment. And I'm going to cover that in a second. Or your benefits may have been canceled entirely because you may have violated a Social Security rule. That could also be a possibility. So those are the reasons why your payments could be delayed or not show up at all. So let's get into the second story. President Biden has a plan to change Social Security. This is a very big deal. It's called Protecting Retirement Security. It's a 4-part plan. The Republicans in Congress also have come up with their plan, which I did a video about. So I'm going to walk you through President Biden's plan, because it's going to affect everybody on Social Security and those who are going to be receiving benefits in the future. So this is something you need to pay attention to. I'm going to walk you through it and make it make sense in terms of how does it impact your benefits. So the president's plan is going to cost $273 billion. That's a lot of money. But why is this even happening? Well, it's because 9 out of 10 people rely on Social Security. It has lifted millions of seniors out of poverty. Without Social Security, about 40% of seniors will be living in poverty. So that is a big deal. And then because of the demographic shifts, there are more people receiving Social Security than people are paid into the system. So there's a $22 trillion shortfall, and that is what the Republicans in Congress and the presidents have both put competing plans on how they are going to fix Social Security, extend its lifespan, and make sure that it's there for future generations, and also make sure that it covers existing recipients fully, because if the Social Security Trust Fund runs out of money in 2035, the maximum you probably get is 70% of your benefits. So that's a big deal. So let's see what that looks like. So the president's plan has a 4-part. It's to increase the payroll taxes on high income earners. I'll explain why. To change the inflationary measure that your COLA is calculated. A lot of you were disappointed by COLA this year. I'm going to explain the president's plan to change that calculation. Increase the special minimum benefit. Those of you who are receiving just the minimum Social Security benefit, this is going to be something you want to pay attention to. And then he wants to raise the primary insurance amount, which is going to benefit people who are age 78 to 82 years old. So let's jump into the president's detailed plan. The first part of the president's plan is to increase the payroll taxes on high income earners. Let me explain what's happening here. Right now, if you make up to $160,200, you paid Social Security taxes on those earnings. Anything above that, you don't pay Social Security on that. So if you're working and you make less than $160,200, you're going to pay Social Security taxes. But if you make more than that, nothing's going to be taken off your paycheck above the $160,200. Previously, in addition to the $160,200 that was taxed, you also paid Social Security taxes on any income above $400,000. So there was a 2-tiered system. Your first $160,200 was taxed, and then anything above that up to $400,000 was not taxed, and then above $400,000 you paid a tax. Well, the $400,000 cap, that part was eliminated. So now you only pay Social Security taxes on the $160,200 and below in income. Well, the president wants to bring back the $400,000 threshold. Why? Because as I mentioned, more money is being taken out in retirement benefits than is being paid into the system. So part of the way to solve the problem of the shortfall, the $22 trillion shortfall, is to make sure that more money is coming back into the system than is being taken out. And the only way, one of the ways at least to do that, is to tax high income earners and bring back what used to exist, that if you made $400,000 or more, you paid Social Security taxes on anything above that. So that is going to create what we call the donut hole, that middle gap where you paid up to $160,200 and then about $400,000 you paid, but there was no Social Security taxes between $160,200 and $400,000. That middle gap is called the donut hole. And basically, over time, it is a hope that with inflation and the national wage index being adjusted, over time, we are all just going to pay taxes. So anybody working, no matter how much you make, you're going to pay Social Security taxes. So that is the plan. That is the president's plan, by the way. So that's the first part of the president's plan. And let's look at the second part, which I think is really, really important, because I've heard a lot of you. I did a video announcing the 2024 COLA, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And a lot of you wrote back and were disappointed that it was so little. Well, the problem is that it's the way COLA is calculated. COLA is based on the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, and it's called CPIW. Let me explain how that works. Each year, there is a basket of goods and services like transportation, food, healthcare, medicine, all these things, clothing, that affect urban wage earners and clerical workers. So they will look at this list of goods and services in the third quarter, and then they will compare the prices of those goods and services to the third quarter from last year, the same goods and services. And if average prices has gone up this year, then they will adjust your COLA up. If average prices went down, they cannot reduce your benefits. They cannot reduce your Social Security or disability benefits, because by law, your benefits cannot be reduced. And if there was no price changes, then they have to leave your benefits the same. Well, over the last 2 years, because of inflation, you received 5.9% increase in COLA in 2021. And then you received, it was announced in 2021. And then you received 8.7% in 2022. Well, this year, the COLA was 3.2%. You can see that was announced for 2024. And it's a big gap. So it is because inflation has been coming down. But what a lot of you have been complaining about is that the inflation that affects you as seniors and people on disability is different from what the government is talking about, because you guys deal with, rising medical care, rising medical costs, prescription drugs, which is not being factored into this COLA calculation because they are using an inflation index for a population, urban wage earners and clerical workers, who are people who are not typically on Social Security. So the president wants to change that and introduce a new index called the CPIE, which is Consumer Price Index for the elderly. It will look at spending habits of household with individuals ages 62 and over, and then adjust prices accordingly based on that each year. So there's going to be a new COLA if this is approved. So that's the second part of the president's plan. The third part is to increase the special minimum benefit. I think this is a game changer. If you are on Social Security and you're receiving the minimum benefit, you know that this is, you're clearly living on very low income and you're living below the national poverty line. So the president wants to boost the income, because what is a special minimum? Well, if you were working and paying into Social Security, but you are in a low-wage job, part of calculating Social Security benefits is how much money you made while you were working. That is a factor in determining how much in Social Security benefits you're going to receive. It all makes sense. The more you made, the more your Social Security benefit up to a cap. So if you didn't work in a high-wage job, your Social Security benefits will probably be very small. So there's a minimum level that the government brings you up to. Even if the work that you did made you qualify for less, you're still going to get the special minimum benefit. Well, the special minimum benefit, even though it's generous compared to what some people were supposed to have received based on their work history, is still below the poverty line. So the president's plan is to boost that. Well, what is the special minimum benefit right now? It is $1,033.50. Annualized is $12,402. That's below the minimum, the poverty level. And next year it's only going to go up by $33. So as you can see, 40% of seniors only receive Social Security benefits as their only source of income. So if you're getting Social Security as your only source of income and you're getting the special minimum benefit, you're living below poverty. And so what the president wants to do is move you up to 125% of the poverty level. Each year, the government releases the federal poverty guidelines, which is used to qualify people for government benefits and other things. And so it's a very important chart that comes out each year. And as you can see, for an individual, you have to make $14,580 in 2023 or less to be considered as living in poverty. Well, the president wants to boost the special minimum to 125% of that. So instead of receiving $12,402, you're going to get 125% of that, which is $18,222. So let's compare what that looks like. Well, right now, if you get the special minimum in 2024, you're going to get $12,798. But if the president's boost in the minimum amount, if it's implemented, which is 125% of the federal poverty level, for 2024, you're going to get $1,518. That is a 47% increase in what you're receiving right now if you're only getting the minimum benefit. So that is a $500 boost, $485. That's a big, big deal. That is a huge increase if all you get is the special minimum and Social Security is your only source of income. So that's a big deal. And then the fourth part of the president's plan is to change the primary insurance amount. What is the primary insurance amount? When they calculate your Social Security benefit, there is a baseline that is used, and then everything else is added. How long you worked, how much you made, what your average pay was, and all that. So the data shows that people who are age 78 to 82, at that age, they start experiencing increased medical costs, healthcare costs, prescription drug costs. And so all of a sudden, that starts to eat into their Social Security pay. So what the president wants to do is that anybody age 78 to 82, during that period, your primary insurance amount will be boosted by 5% during that time. And the goal is to then help you cope with that rising expenses that is mostly related to healthcare costs and prescription drugs. So as you can see, the president's plan is to, one, bring in more money into the system through increasing the payroll Social Security tax on high income earners. Number two is to change the way COLA is calculated so your Social Security and disability benefits will catch up with inflation, which a lot of you have complained that prices have gone up and stayed up and it's not being reflected in your Social Security or disability benefits. Number three is to change the special minimum amount so that people who only receive the special minimum amount will get a big boost, a 47% boost. And then finally, for seniors ages 78 to 82, your primary insurance amount will be boosted by 5% so they can get more money during that age when you experience increased costs that are peculiar to that age group. So that is the president's plan, and I'm going to stay on top of this because the Republicans have also presented their plan, and we'll see what happens in Congress. But I think this is a bold plan. But if you want to see what the Republicans are proposing, watch the video in the video library that I put up on what is going to happen to Social Security based on the plan that the GOP put in Congress. So that is the second item I want to talk about. And then I want to talk about the changes to Social Security that are coming in 2024. There are 5 major changes that everybody needs to be aware of to prepare for the new year. So what are these changes to Social Security that are coming up? Well, let's take a look. There are 5 major changes. The first one, obviously, is COLA, which I talked about. Your benefits are going to go up by 3.2%, Social Security and disability benefits. And what does that mean for you? Well, let's look at COLA because a lot of people have complained that the COLA is so tiny. But to look at it objectively, the best thing they need to do is change the calculation because historically, the average COLA has actually been 2.6% over the last 20 years. And as you can see from the table, in 2010, 2011, 2016, there was no COLA because there was no price change, so it was 0%. And then before that, in 1987, 99, 2003, it was barely 1.4%. And even as recently as 2021, it was 1.3%. 2020 was 1.6%. So 2.6% is the average, and so 3.2% that you're getting next year is above average. But I understand why a lot of you are complaining about it, and I get it. That's why I'm presenting the president's plan, which addresses some of that. So what does this mean for you directly? Well, the Social Security Administration is going to start sending out letters right now, middle of December, informing you of what your actual COLA amount is going to be and how much you're going to receive starting in January for Social Security and disability. If you want to take a look at it yourself, you can go online to your Social Security account or create one, and then you can have access to what the exact amount is going to be that you're going to receive starting in January. So now let's talk about what this, as I mentioned, COLA is calculated based on the Consumer Price Index for wage earners for this year compared to last year. If there was an increase, then you get a boost. The Social Security Administration is very transparent with how this is done. You can go on their website and see it, and I've put it on the screen for you to see. It's very objective and very transparent. Whether you agree with the formula or not, at least they are showing how they are coming up with the number. How they arrived at the 3.2% is what I've shown on the screen. So now let's see how this affects you. If you're on Social Security, your average benefit is going to go up from $1,827 per month to $1,907 per month. If you're on SSDI, your average benefit is going to go from $1,483 to $1,537. If you're on SSI, Supplemental Security Income, your maximum benefit is going to go from $914 to $943. And if you're a couple on SSI, your maximum benefit is going to go from $1,371 to $1,415. Now, another thing that's going to change. Remember, I was talking about, when I talk about the President's Plan, I talk about the Social Security taxes and the threshold. Well, that number goes up every year. So how much of your income is taxed or is subject to Social Security taxes, that threshold goes up every year based on COLA and inflation. So 2023 was $160,200. Next year is going to be $168,600. So if you make up to $168,600, you are going to have to pay Social Security taxes on that. And then another number that's going up is the maximum benefit you can receive if you are getting Social Security at full retirement age, which means that if you are starting to collect Social Security and you are at full retirement age, you are entitled to a maximum benefit of $3,627 in 2023. By 2024, that's going to go up to $3,822. So that is going to be the maximum benefit you can receive at full retirement age. Next, this is for those of you who are working while on Social Security. As you may know, when you're working and you're collecting Social Security, but you haven't reached your full retirement age, your benefits are reduced by how much you're working. So there's an income threshold at which point your Social Security benefit starts getting affected. That is also adjusted every year. So in 2023, if you are not at full retirement age, you can work up to $21,240 or $1,770 a month and don't have to pay anything or get your benefits reduced. But once you go above that, then every dollar in benefits will be withheld for every $2 you make above that threshold. Well, in 2024, that threshold is going up to $22,320 a year. So again, it is a threshold when you're receiving benefits and you're working and you are not at full retirement age yet. When you get to full retirement age, that year of full retirement, that number changes. The threshold moves up to $56,520 a year or $4,710. And above that, for $1 in benefit is withheld for every $3 above that limit. And then obviously after full retirement, your earnings are not taken away. You can work as many hours as you want, as much as you want. At full retirement, you don't lose any benefits. So during that year of full retirement, that threshold is more generous. And next year, that's going to be $59,520. And then the last change that's coming is that, as you may know, when you are working into Social Security, you want to earn your 40 credits before you become eligible. Well, each credit is equated by a certain amount of work that you have to do per quarter. And so you have to make $1,640 in 2023 to earn a quarter credit. In 2024, that's going to go up to $1,730. Again, this is all changes that happen once the COLA is announced. A lot of data, a lot of numbers are impacted, and a lot of people's lives are impacted as a result. So I wanted to bring you that information so that you have a full understanding of what changes are going to happen based on COLA and 2024, because this all starts in a few weeks. In about 2 weeks, this is going to hit, and then you're going to start seeing reflection on your pay, on your Social Security benefits, and everything else you're trying to do regarding Social Security. Now, let's talk about this crazy 60-minute story that I've been talking about. And you want to stay till the end because I have an update on that $84,000 somebody received, and the way they dealt with it and the lessons that you need to learn if you get one of these letters. As I mentioned, there's going to be 1 million letters going out this year because of overpayment. So 60 Minutes obviously realized this was a big problem. So Anderson Cooper of CNN did a story, and the title of the story, in my opinion, gives it all away in terms of what we're dealing with. It says, Social Security Administration, our mistake is your responsibility. You, the recipient, your responsibility, which is a crazy idea to begin with. But let's dig into this. So as you know, 71 million people receive Social Security checks a month, but 1 million each year somehow get caught up in overpayment. And it's a growing problem now. I just read a report today that it's not even 1 million. It's way higher than 1 million. And overpayments occur due to miscalculation sometimes by the Social Security Administration, and then it is not immediately caught. Sometimes it is caught years and even decades after this has happened, which I will tell you. One story happened when the person was a child, and then they got the bill when they were an adult. So this is an ongoing problem, and Congress is also getting involved. So here is the first story that 60 Minutes covered. This is of Stephen and Becky Sword, and their story is really bizarre. So they live in Chicago, and the couple got a letter from the Social Security Administration that they owe $51,887. So how does this happen? Well, they had 30 days to pay it back. 30 days. And according to 60 Minutes, this is what happened. So the husband, Stephen, faced some illness challenges, and then he got on disability benefits. While on disability, he started working, and you can do that. Social Security encourages people on disability benefits who can work a little bit to do so. And when you work, just like regular Social Security, when you are not at full retirement age, when you get disability benefits and you start to work, there are two programs. There's Ticket to Work, there's Trial to Work. You have to report your earnings to the Social Security Administration every month so that your next month's disability benefit will be adjusted down based on how much you work. Well, the Sword says they've been doing that. They said they supplied all the information to the Social Security Administration as requested, but nothing happened. He kept getting the same benefit. And then one day, boom, a letter gets in the mail. You owe $51,887. You have to pay it in 30 days because we've been overpaying you for years, and now we want the money back. And this threw them in a tailspin because obviously this is a lot of money, and they followed all the rules and sent all the paperwork to the Social Security Administration, and all of a sudden they're getting a letter in the mail to pay almost $60,000. Now, so they were at a point where they've exhausted all appeals. They applied, they appealed to the Social Security Administration. It was denied. They asked for something called a waiver. A waiver is essentially saying that you cannot pay the money. That if they take your benefits or they take part of it, it's going to cause you severe financial problems. And so you want them to forgive the debt. It was denied. So now they had no more options. So what they did was they were about to give their only retirement savings they had. They had about $60,000 saved up. They're about to give it to the Social Security Administration. And there is an interesting update to this story at the end, which I'll tell you. But let's move on to the next story. This is of Jean and Glenn, and her story is even crazier. She's on Social Security benefits, And here's what happened. So when she got on Social Security 6 years ago, she started getting her benefits. You apply, you say you're ready, you apply, and then they start sending you your benefits. Well, unbeknownst to her, they were sending her more money than she deserved or was eligible for, which is not her fault because she applied, she was ready, she had worked into the system, she has paid into it, and she was ready to collect her benefits. She applied like everybody else, started receiving benefits, and then 2 years ago, Social Security cut off her benefits. Why? Because they sent her this bill and said for 4 years she's been receiving money, more money than she was eligible for. So they cut off her benefits 2 years ago. She hasn't received any Social Security benefits at all. And they are taking her money to pay back the overpayment, even though it was their error. They made their miscalculation. She did not calculate that number and take the money from them. They sent her the money and said, this is your Social Security check every month. This is how much you're going to get. And she said, okay. So she's getting the money every month. And then for 4 years, nothing. And then 2 years ago, they cut it off. So that's the second story. And obviously, this caused her tremendous stress because now the money that she's been relying on was pulled underneath her. But this third story is even more crazier. So this is the story of Roy Farmer. Now, when he was young, when he was a child, he was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. So he got on disability benefits. So his mom was getting money to take care of him as a child with disability. Well, when he was 11 years, the Social Security Administration determined that he was no longer disabled. So they cut off the benefits, which they are allowed to do because they do reviews periodically to see if you are still disabled, and if you've gotten better, then they cut off the benefits, which is standard. So there's no problem there. What happened was that on top of cutting off the benefits, they said that they had been paying him $4,900 in overpayments. So when he's now an adult in his 20s, and they sent him a bill as an adult in his 20s that, hey, you owe Social Security this money. And he's thinking like, okay, how did I owe this money? I was a child. You guys were paying disability benefits to my mom to take care of me. And now I'm an adult and you're sending me a bill for money that you said I owe when I was a child. So that's exactly what's happening. They sent the bill to him because they think he has the money to pay because he's working now. Bizarre. So what's causing all this? Well, Congress has gotten involved. They brought the Social Security Administrator, the interim administrator to Congress. And with me, congressional hearings are just theater. When they bring people before Congress and they grill them, and it's all for the cameras. Not a lot happens. I have not seen congressional hearings that have led to any big changes like the theater versions that they try to put on. So this is what I see here, because millions of people are going to receive these letters. Congress is going to do all this noise, and then people behind the scenes are going to lobby, and then nothing happens. So anyway, they brought the interim head of the Social Security to Congress to answer questions, and Congress is concerned. Whether they're going to do anything about it or not remains to be seen. But here's the problem. Social Security needs accountability, because right now, the fact that they can go after people 10 years later, 15 years later, send people $72,000 bill, $84,000, $51,000, it's crazy. But it's also because they are targeting the vulnerable population, people who don't have a voice, people who cannot advocate for themselves, who are not powerful voices. And most of the time when you appeal or you request a waiver, it is rarely granted, even though the Social Security Administration is empowered to do that. So what is causing this? Well, one of the problems that's being compounded is that the Social Security Administration is short-staffed. More people are receiving Social Security benefits than ever, 71 million, but then staffing at the Social Security Administration is at a 25-year low, which then makes even the problem worse. So if you get an overpayment letter and you try to get on the phone with the Social Security Administration, it's hard. The New York Times just came up with a story last week that the average hold when you call Social Security is about 38 minutes. That's the average. So you could stay on the phone longer. So if you have one of these letters and you're trying to get it resolved, it's usually a nightmare. So what experts are suggesting Congress do, they're suggesting two things. Number one, that Congress institutes a statute of limitation so that after a certain time, even if there's an overpayment, the Social Security Administration cannot come after you. And then the second policy change that they are recommending is that the Social Security Administration restructure the way they do overpayments so that when people get on payment plans for overpayment, it's not a huge burden on them. Because if you think about it, people who are receiving disability benefits and Social Security, most of them are on fixed income. That is the only income they get. And if you're on disability benefits, you cannot have more than $2,000 in resources. Otherwise, your benefits will be cut off. So why are they sending letters to people who they know do not have more than $2,000 in resources, but are asking them to pay $51,000, $84,000, which I'm about to show you in a second? It's crazy. So hopefully these methods or these changes are made, but the Social Security Administration has been aggressive in collecting overpayments. In 2022, they collected $3.354 billion. In 2021, they collected $3.069 billion. In 2020, they collected $2.886 billion. So as you can see, the last 5 years, they've been very busy chasing people, trying to get that overpayment money back. And the reason they say they are being aggressive is that, as you know, the Social Security Trust Fund is going to run out of money by 2035. And so this is the Social Security Administration collecting all the money that's owed to the government so that they can help with this trust fund situation. While that is a very noble effort, the trust fund problem is bigger than the overpayment. There's $21.6 billion in overpayment that the Social Security Administration has to collect. And there's 22 trillion. So billion, trillion. There's 22 trillion in shortfall with the Social Security Trust Fund. So even if they collect all the money in overpayments that they're due, it's a drop in the bucket. I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm just saying they're chasing the wrong thing, because even if they collect all the money, it's a drop in the bucket. The real thing to change Social Security, to fix Social Security, is something that Congress and the President have to get together and come up with a solution that they can both agree with and they can both live with. So this is what you can do if you get an overpayment letter. 3 things. Number 1, if you have the money, pay it. A lot of people don't. So your second thing is to appeal. Now, when you get the letter is going to tell you that you have 60 days to file an appeal. Well, I'm going to tell you this. You should appeal within 30 days. Why? Because by law, if they get your appeal within 30 days, they cannot collect money from you. They cannot initiate any collection effort until they have made a decision on your appeal. So if you apply in 60 days, they will start collection after 30 days. So make sure that if you're going to appeal, you send it in within 30 days. If your appeal is denied, which most of them are, you can request a waiver, which I explained earlier. You are just saying to the Social Security Administration, I cannot make the payment. I don't have the money to pay it. If you take my benefits or you take part of it, it will cause me financial problems. Can you forgive the debt? If that is denied, then your final option is to request a hearing before a Social Security administrative judge. That is a legal proceeding. So you might want to get a lawyer, an attorney that deals with Social Security overpayments, so that they can prepare your case and get you, at least increase your odds of a good outcome. So those are the options you have should you receive one of these letters. These letters are going out, so don't be surprised if one hits you, because the way they're justifying it doesn't make sense. Anyway, so there's a happy ending to some of these stories. I told you the 3 people that 60 Minutes featured, Stephen and Betty Sword, Glenn and Jean, and then Roy Farmer. After the 60 Minutes story went out, Social Security decided that even though they've denied all their application, when 60 Minutes reached out to them, they realized that this was going to happen. Then they decided that they're going to forgive the debt. So all 3 stories that were featured on 60 Minutes, Social Security forgave the debt. The story I'm about to talk about is the same kind of thing, where I'm realizing a pattern here. If you get overpayment and you get some big voices behind you, you are likely to get it written off. But if you are fighting by yourself as the little person or the little guy or the little girl, then it gets harder which is not the way the system should work. But all three people who were featured, good for them, their debt was wiped off after they were denied because 60 Minutes made big noises about their story. So that is what's happening with overpayment. And let's go to this story from Newsweek, how somebody got a letter for $84,000 and got it waived. So this was a story coming out of Michigan. Newsweek picked up on it, and it's a big story because of how it happened. And it's actually from a local TV station in Michigan, 13 on your side investigation from Western Michigan. A man got a bill from Social Security Administration, Dave Wilder. He's also on disability benefits, got $84,000 bill, and here is what happened and what you should learn from this. So here is the guy and his wife. They were, he got on disability and then he started working. As I mentioned, when you get on disability, if you can work, you're allowed to work a little bit. He was working part-time. He said he was submitting his wages to the Social Security Administration, just like Stephen Sword. He was submitting everything to the Social Security Administration, and then he got hit with a bill, and they were going to cut off his benefit. Here is the bill, $84,516.90, balance that he owed. And as you can see in the letter, it says overpayment. So how did this happen? Well, as Newsweek is indicating, the government is trying to collect billions of dollars back from beneficiaries, many of whom are among the most vulnerable people in the U.S., such as low-income retirees, widows, and those with disabilities. And overpayment arises from the agency making a mistake in calculating benefits amount or from beneficiaries failing to comply with requirements intentionally or otherwise. So some of it is mistakes that the Social Security Administration makes. Some of it is beneficiaries not sending the right paperwork in. So they got a bill for $84,000, and the Social Security Administration said it was due to because he was working and not submitting the paperwork in. Well, this caused him significant amount of stress and anxiety. But within a month, he got a call from the Social Security Administration that he no longer owed the money. And let me explain what happened. So the local TV station featured a story about his issue because he contacted them. They featured a story in the local news, and then they contacted Social Security Administration and wanted to get more answers. And Social Security Administration usually will tell reporters that they don't comment on individual cases. But once you make some noise, it looks like there's a pattern here, because they received a call a month after from the Social Security Administration saying that the debt is forgiven. And despite the debt being forgiven, Dave and his wife, Rose Wilder, are advocating for public awareness, emphasizing the need for individuals to assert their rights and challenge such errors. So if you get an overpayment letter, make sure you challenge it. The Social Security Administration makes mistakes, so at least file an appeal within 30 days and push back, and make sure that you have your numbers and your figures and you understand how this happened. If you don't understand how you got into an overpayment situation, reach out to the Social Security so that you can understand specifically when they are saying they started overpaying you, how much they were overpaying you, and how they came up with that number. You can go to the Social Administration office, or you can go online, but the best is to just go to the office so that you can sit down with somebody and get a good understanding of what's happening. So the lesson here is that, the Social Security Administration doesn't seem to take into account the human element they are dealing with. They're dealing with people's emotions, people who have worked their whole life and are trying to get benefits that they've paid into, and this is a quote from them. We're just hoping that this brings awareness to other people that you have to call in. You have to fight for your rights. Otherwise, you're just going to get walked on. That's pretty much it. I couldn't have said it any better. So that is all I have for you today. If you have any comments about anything I presented with the Social Security overpayments, President Biden's plan for Social Security changes, Social Security changes that are coming next year, anything I presented today, hit me in the comment section below. And if you are new to this channel, please hit the subscribe button, because as you can see, all we do is bring you Social Security news and updates. Anything that will affect your benefits, we want to bring to you and be the first to do so. So hit that subscribe button. Until I see you in the next video, thank you for watching.